Welcome to the Instant Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Elyse. And I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been having so many conversations lately, especially with my clients about their self-worth. And many of them are struggling with just questions of, who am I to be charging this much, or, going after a bestseller list or a top ranked podcast, or whatever the goal is that they're going for, having this level of impact. And I've just noticed these conversations about self-doubt and self-worth kind of creeping up. And I tell you what, when I'm working with clients, a lot of it is strategy. It's funnel strategy, it's marketing strategy, but none of that is as important as the inner game. None of it is as important, because it doesn't matter how good of a funnel you got. If you're questioning yourself and if you're wondering, who am I to do this? Guess what? It's not going to work, or it's not going to work as well as it could. So the inner game is so critically important to your success as you grow your business and grow your visibility. And so today I actually wanted to bring back on, this is our second interview ever on the podcast. I don't think my guest will need an introduction. You probably already know her, but she's a friend. She's a client of mine, Heather Monahan. Author, best-selling author of Confidence Creator. She also hosts a podcast, Creating Confidence, with Heather Monahan, which you should definitely check out as a top-rated podcast if you haven't heard it yet. She's interviewed some incredible people on her show, but her whole brand is around helping you create confidence. And part of what I love about Heather is she walks her talk. And so you're going to hear some stories and examples in this interview of places where she's just really gone for it and been gutsy and believed in herself and said, why not me? Which I think is the attitude that we need to have when we are going after these bigger goals. And so I wanted to bring this interview back to you because I think it's so relevant. Plus, if you haven't been listening from the start, you may not have even heard this interview. And it's one of my personal favorites out of all of them that I've done. So I know you're going to love learning from Heather. I'm inspired every single time I talk to her and learn from her. And I think you are going to feel the same way. So with that, let's welcome Heather Monahan to the Instant Impact Podcast. Heather Monahan, it is so good to have you on the Instant Impact Podcast. Welcome. So thrilled to have you.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am so excited that you're here. And so for those people who don't yet know of you, although I have a feeling that that list is growing smaller and smaller by the day, but if somebody has not yet heard of you, tell us a little bit about who you are and how the writing of your best-selling book, Confidence Creator, came to be.
So for the past 23 years, I was in the media business and I ascended to the highest level. I was the Cheif Revenue Officer of a publicly traded company. I was there for 14 years. And when the CEO I worked for all that time became ill, he elevated his daughter to the CEO position and she immediately fired me. So I had been her number one competitor in her eyes, or, she did not feel good around me. I'm not sure exactly what that was about. However, she called me and let me know my position was no longer needed, and that meant I wasn't needed either. So after 14 years, I drove home, cried my eyes out, and thought, okay, what do I want to do? This is the one chance I feel like I have right now to go out on my own and do something different that I've never done. So why don't I take that opportunity? And that's exactly what I did. The first thing, I launched my company, Boss and Heels LLC. And the first action step I took was writing my first book, Confidence Creator. And that dropped May 22nd, 2018, and was number one on business biography, personal transformation, a number of different categories, and has done really well the past few months.
So I didn't realize that Boss and Heels was relatively well. I mean, we're talking, 18 months now. or so, a little bit more than that. So that was a new company as well after you got fired. Is that right?
Yes.
So here's what blows my mind is that by the time you and I connected, and you and I still, it's like, we don't necessarily agree on how and when we connected, but we know somehow at some point we connected on LinkedIn. We could probably easily
Yes.
look back and find that out. But when I looked you up online, it was like, holy crap, this woman has a major brand. I mean, you had a very well done website. Like, I'm seeing you everywhere. You're very visible. For you, had it always come naturally to like promote yourself and get your stuff out there? Or was that something that you really like, where did that, so I'm seeing you shake your head no, that it didn't. Um, how did you figure out how to do that? Because that for a lot of people does not come naturally and it feels very uncomfortable.
Sure. And for me as well. So, a couple of years before I got fired, I had a mentor of mine at work, an older gentleman, and he had said to me one day, "Hey, pick your head up. Every day you've got your head down and you're just doing your job and grinding it out and chasing the paycheck. Think about, what do you really want to do? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind?" And I first came up with all the excuses like, I'm busy, I'm a single mother, I'm running a major company, I don't have time for this. And after a while of him really challenging me, I decided, you know what, you're right. I want to do more. I want to help more and give back more, because I grew up poor and I didn't know that you can legitimately create whatever you want. I thought certain people could do that and they were in this lane over here. But for people like me, I had to stay in the lane that I was put in, which was chase a paycheck, kill yourself, work yourself to death, and, make sure that you have money coming in. So he really opened my eyes to that there could be more than just the paycheck. And I decided at that point to really get involved in charity work. And during that time, I realized I needed to start sharing my message beyond just the charity work, but for other people that were the younger version of me. I didn't want them to wait to be 40 years old to figure this out. I thought, why don't I launch a website and share my story and give free tips to people that need it? How did I break the glass ceiling? Why was it me? Well, yeah, I've cracked the code. I figured out how to do it, but I don't want everyone else to wait 40 years to figure it out. Everyone should have this information. So that's the time that few years ago, I launched my website and really started leaning into the personal brand. I was scared to death. The employer that I worked for hated it. They were afraid that I was shining my light too bright. I was threatened at work. I was bullied at work about it. It was a really challenging time. However, what I had learned during this time was that listening to my inner voice was the right move for me, and that only I would have that right answer. And I ended up moving forward. Now, it doesn't mean there weren't sleepless nights. It doesn't mean it wasn't scary that people were saying, haters were saying really negative things about me. So that time, that 2-year window was really, really challenging. I ended up throwing my back out. I had lost hair on my head. I mean, I had physical symptoms to show the stress that I was living with on the inside. It wasn't working. And that real challenge is because I was working somewhere where people wanted to hold me back. They didn't want me to shine my light. So the real message for me back then was I was working in the wrong place, but I was so attached to that routine and responsibility and the team that I built and the paycheck and all of these other things that it took me getting fired to really realize that shining my light is a great thing. It doesn't dim others' light. In fact, it teaches them that they can step into their power and feel great about who they are too. And now that I'm in a good space and work for a great boss, that's me, I am able to shine my light and get amazing notes from people that I don't even know saying, thank you so much for teaching me to do that. Or thank you for sharing that this happened for you. I'm, cheering you on along the way. And I'm now surrounded with people that encourage me and appreciate that, I've taken that step and that I continue to take those steps because, yeah, it's scary, but it's so well worth it.
That's incredible. And you said something that's so important there. And this is something like, as a personal brand strategy company, obviously we're big proponents of people building their brand and becoming known, whether they're intrapreneurs, whether they're entrepreneurs, but it's something that does make a lot of employers uncomfortable. And it's such a scarcity mentality. I mean, it's such limited thinking because, quite frankly, had they accepted and promoted and said, yes, we want you to be so well known in your space, it would have done a lot of good for their company, right? But that's just not the thinking, unfortunately, that happens in the minds of a lot of employers. But I
But
think
there are some that do recognize it and encourage
yeah.
it. And I saw that with Bank of America. I went and really did a lot of research during the time that I was being attacked at work. And I saw there are a number of companies that get it, that say, wow,
Mm.
when my VP shines their light, people are pulled to our company. They want to be a part of it. So, you know, I don't want to just say that every publicly traded company's out there is insecure and they're going to be put off by it. You just need to find the right one that wants people to promote themselves and wants to cheer you on through that time.
Yes, totally. And those, quite frankly, those are the ones that are going to have longevity and that are going to succeed long term, just in the way today's economy is going, where everyone can be an influencer, and you either need to embrace that or you need to just understand that your doors will probably be closed at some point. I feel strongly about that. But so tell me about you seem to do the whole shining your light thing very naturally. Like, I see you showing up on LinkedIn and you're doing these awesome videos, and you seem to do it. It just seems to come naturally to you. Do you have like a system behind it where you're like, okay, I'm going to talk about this on this day and this on this day, and I'm going to use this?
Oh
So,
my gosh,
okay, so tell
you're
us about
way
that.
overthinking this. So, you know what's funny is that I just started doing video on LinkedIn, I think 2 weeks ago. And this is so interesting. I was in the media business for 20 something years, and I know video is where it's at. And I would preach it to everyone. However, I wasn't doing it. So yet again, this is like, I always tell people, fear is like a ladder. And you know, you take that first step and then you're scared and you stay on that step for a while. And then you got to like push yourself to that next step. Well, this launching video was just me taking that next fear step and moving into the fear, because I didn't feel comfortable doing it. And of course, we do something new, the haters are going to come. And then of course, you know, I was going to get creepers on LinkedIn messaging me, and just more, you know, there's, with everything positive that you do, there's always, you know, a potential downside to it. So all those things were my excuses that held me back from doing it. And so funny, this guy wanted me to go on his show a month ago, and he had been driving me crazy. He was relentless, which I love as a salesperson. So I finally said yes to him, and he and I hit it off. And after our show, the show was great, but after we wrapped our show, he said, hey, I just want to let you know, I'm going to put a lot of clips up on LinkedIn, a lot of video of you and me. And I thought, oh, okay. And I'm a very competitive person. He said, let's see how your video views do versus my other people I've interviewed this year. It'll be interesting to see, because he had interviewed some big names. Once I heard that, that was the push I needed to say, oh, well, then I'm going to promote it too on my LinkedIn. So I first shared the video he created, which was clips of our interview. And for a week I did that, and I watched my LinkedIn stats start soaring. And I thought, I wonder if just I do the video, what will happen? So that's what pushed me to do it. And that day I launched my first video, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I hit 30,000 views in, I think, 24 hours. And then I was kicking myself, because for 6 months I've had a book out there, and my LinkedIn views were around 5,000-6,000 views a post. I could have been doing exponentially better and reaching so many more people had I taken that chance and just jumped and put that video out there. So I've learned yet again, move faster, take more chances, and move into fear, and really shine your light with video, and watch the results. It'll be amazing.
I absolutely love that. And so it reminds me of a conversation you and I had, maybe a month ago. And I actually want to commend you, because I remember you and I were talking about video, and you were giving me like a loving hard time. You were like, I see you all the time on video. Like, girl, is it like, get off my feed or something like that. It was hilarious. It was all in good fun. But I know I've noticed recently that it felt like you were doing more videos. And I was like, I don't know if this is like something that all of a sudden I'm just seeing, or if she's doing more, but like, you are showing up every single day on video. And so one of the takeaways for me there is, you are willing to do the things that you don't necessarily love doing, because it's like, especially as a woman, you kind of get made up and you do your thing and you want to feel presentable. And you and I were talking about that, like just all the prep to go into feeling more confident for that video. But you're doing it. And so it seems to me that you kind of just were like, well, if this is going to work, I'm just going to do it and get over any sort of like head trash or things that would be holding me back.
Well, it was really that guy, you know, laying out for me that he wanted to see the results of our video. And once he articulated that to me, I thought, oh, heck no, I'm not letting anyone beat me. And that pushed me to launch his video. And once I did that, I said, if this one did this well, what, it just made me realize, wait a minute, there's really something here. So it took me that push to really get me to do it. And now, like anything, once you've done it, who cares? I could do it every day. It's just that first time really taking that shot and believing in yourself that, you know what, I'm not going to die. And if people hate it, so what? I like it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely works.
So I talk to so many entrepreneurs, especially women, who are like, I know I should be doing video, but it makes me so uncomfortable. I hate how I look. I hate how I sound. I mean, it's crazy. And the crazy thing about it is that I hear those fears from men so infrequently. It's almost always
Of
a woman
course.
right? And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to shake the women, but I want to give them like the confidence to help them start to show up. So would you have any other tips for women who know they need to be more visible online to help build their brand, but are struggling with those fears about, I don't like how I look, or I don't like how I sound?
Yeah,
Anything
so
like that?
I hated how I sounded forever. And it took somebody listening to my Audible version of my book and telling me what a great voice I had for me to really say, you know what, I need to stop telling myself I have a bad voice and I should appreciate that other people like my voice. So really choosing to see it from another perspective helped me a lot. So, for anyone, you can talk to the supportive people in your life and hear the things that they like about you and really take hold of those things when you are feeling nervous and not so confident. But the other thing, and you and I talked about this, so much about images, video, photographs is lighting. It's hair and makeup. It's the color that you put on. So if you're not feeling confident, and you're scared to really run your highlight reel on LinkedIn, get a professional headshot done. That's number one.
Mm.
And you need to go to professional. And yeah, it's going to cost you $500 and it's an investment in you. But if you want to bring your A game, you need to bring it. And this is a really great way, this is your highlight reel. This is where you put everything amazing that you do. Don't just use a picture of you at a Christmas party that you cropped everybody else out of. No. So if you want to get to that next level, really show that it's about, when I was working for a position, when I was in a lower level position, I'd always think, dress for the job I want, not the one I have. Bring it that I'm the chief revenue officer when I wasn't, so that people saw me in that regard. You need to do that on LinkedIn and, really wherever you're going to have your imaging and your brand, bring where you want to go tomorrow, not just where you are today. And so, getting that headshot done, learning about lighting, learning about what's your best side, learning about what is that right color for you. What are the pictures that, wow, I really pop and look good. For me, that's red, it's blue. I know that when I don't feel confident, I throw those colors on. I know that when I don't feel confident, I use the scents that make me feel really powerful. I know that when I don't feel confident, I look at, okay, which is my best side again? Oh, it's this one. All right, I want to set up so that I'm positioned that way. There are so many things you can do through practice and knowing yourself. And yeah, at the end, done is better than perfect. So none of us are going to look perfect every day. None of us are going to nail it every day, but putting something out there is the reason why people reach out to me, because I've created content and they're responding to it. If you don't take that leap and put something out there, your network isn't going to organically grow.
Oh my gosh. Amen to everything. Amen to everything. And when you were talking, it reminded me of this quote. I think it's Brendon Burchard who talks about it, but he talks about people who are like, well, I'm not going to put something out there because I'm a perfectionist and I just like for it to be
That's
perfect
an
first.
excuse.
It is. And he says, look, if you have put nothing out there, then there's nothing to perfect. The only way to perfect something is to get out your first viable copy of it. And then
Right.
you can polish and perfect it. And I think you're so spot on, because I had a lot of fear about that too when I first, probably less than most people I talk to, but I still had some fear about like, well, I don't feel like I look great in this. And for me, the number one thing was I just don't watch anything before I put it out. Like, unless I really think that I messed something up and I'm like, oh, I should go back and check, I just don't put it out, because I know if I sit there and watch myself, I'm probably going to be self-critical. And then I'm going to be like, oh, I should do another take of this. And nobody has time for that. Right? Like,
No.
just get it out there and do it. And for the most part, people are so forgiving and they don't pay attention to the stuff that we do. And they just really appreciate the value that you're adding. Now,
They also might identify with the things that you thought were imperfect might be what they resonates with them,
yeah.
So, oh, wow, my hair didn't look great that day or something. And then you'll get a note, hey, you should wear your hair up more often. It looks so cute, So it's really just be the real you, whoever that is, take the mask off and just own who you are and watch. The more authentic you are, the more people will be drawn to you. for sure.
So true. It's so true. Like sometimes, not today, but sometimes when I do interviews, I'll have my little dog Bailey behind me because she's like a yippy dog and she'll be yipping throughout the house if she's not behind me. And I'll try to like keep her kind of stuck back there so she's not interfering with the interview or the video. But every now and then she'll pop up and she'll start stretching behind me. And it's kind of this like, it's an imperfect moment, but people will reach out and say, oh, where's Bailey today? And they get to know you on a more personal level, which is a huge piece of selling yourself and building relationships and just like
Absolutely.
being
So
real.
true.
So you said something before, and I do want to talk about for the people who are not so supportive of us. And you've got a great story in your book about how to handle haters. And you had this guy who was like really ugly to you in an awards conference where you were presenting an event. But I think you had some really good advice for how to handle haters. So for somebody who is working on being more visible, and maybe it's on LinkedIn or maybe it's somewhere else, maybe if you can share a little bit of that story and then share what you would say as far as the right mindset to help us handle those haters.
I don't remember which, I've had so many haters across my career. I'm not sure which story that you're referencing, but one that, well, first of all, if you don't have a hater, we've got a problem, because that means you're not being your unique self. You're not really showing the world who you are. You're holding back. So I like to see haters as a sign that I'm doing something unique. I'm being the real me. And I love that, because if you're vanilla and you're just like everyone else and you're flying low, no one's going to hate on you because no one's going to see you. So to me, when I don't get haters for a little bit, I get nervous. I say, holy cow, I'm not pushing the envelope anymore. I got to kick it up a notch. I'm not really being the real me. I'm being too much like everyone else. And who wants that? Not this girl right here. So, definitely take haters as a positive, that you are doing something different. You are being unique and you are being you, and own that and celebrate it. Get excited. Don't get down about it. So, I used to respond to haters, and what I've learned is that's a losing game. So now when people will say things on my feed that's negative, I just ignore it. And every once in a while, I'll call them out on it, which I enjoy doing too, because I've had some haters on Goodreads, for example, which is a platform that rates books. And someone came out with a ghost account. So it's no face, no profile picture. The account was created a day ago. They've never read a book or rated a book. And then they rate my book a 1 with no reasoning. Well, obviously we know this is someone, probably maybe the woman that fired me, that, is coming out to try to take a personal attack at me. So I took a screenshot of that and took it to LinkedIn, and I posted it on LinkedIn, and the name was Barbara. And I said, Barbara, not sure how to get a hold of you because you don't put a picture up on your profile page. I wanted to inquire how you disliked my book so much that you would rate it a 1. Interesting. Barbara, had you actually read my book, you would post the picture of your face, you would celebrate that you didn't like the book, and you would rate it a 1 with your email in there, full color and highlights on who you are, because you would own that that's your positioning. But Barbara, you didn't read the book because you don't even have a profile picture up here yet. So please give the book a shot. And I promise you this, not only will you not rate it a 1, you'll also get your profile updated, and I'll be cheering you on. And it's so funny, anytime something happens like that, and I get private DMs that sometimes are really rude, and I'll, black out the person's name so no one knows who it was, but then I'll post what they wrote because it's so crazy. And people really rally around you during those moments to see, listen, everyone in the world's not nice. Everyone in the world's not confident, and there are going to be haters, and it's really sad for them because they're in whatever difficult situation they're in. But when you share with others some of the nastiness that's out there, more people will rise up to support you and advocate for you, because we've all run into it at one point, in our career or in our life or on social media. And I think that people really bond together and rally around helping others to get through those tough times.
Totally. And I think typically if there's something in you that triggers someone, it's something that they want for themselves typically. Or it's something that they feel like, I think it's usually something they want for themselves, or they feel like they could never have, or something that they don't like about themselves, right? Like it is always, always personal to them, not to you. And then it's your choice on how to respond, right? And how to engage. And man, I mean, I like the concept of just kind of like throwing it out there, but you also, and I think you meant this when you said it was like, look, Barbara, if you will read the book and give your honest opinion and show your face, I'll be cheering you on. right? And so that
Yeah,
was
but I knew Barbara really wasn't going to read the book. But yeah, if she would, I truly do believe the whole reason I wrote that book was to help people build and create their own confidence. And I truly do believe that anyone that reads it will find some takeaways that will help them create confidence for themselves, for sure.
Yes. Well, as a reader, I found about 100. So I highly recommend everybody, guys, if you have not read the book, please do. And it's like an easy read. It's short, sweet, easy chapters, which I love and which I think most people today love as well. So one of the things that has most impressed me about you is the way you go after what you want. And I remember, so this was a conversation we had a little while back about a conference you were wanting to speak at. And it was like the first round, they were like, no, there's no room. And you said, you know what, that's not good enough. Like, I'm going to make it happen. And now whether it happens or not, like, I know that's kind of in the works for you. But what I took from that was that initial no from them to you, it wasn't your no. It was like you were rejecting that no. So talk a little bit about, maybe how do you know when to keep pushing versus when to back off? And what's the mindset, or what do you say to yourself to stay motivated when you hear that initial no?
So I've been in sales my entire life. Even when I was, a kid, I used to wait tables, and then I bartended, and then I got into sales for the Gala Winery. I've always been in sales. One thing that is so crucial about learning sales as a business and a way of thinking is that every no is taking you closer to a yes. And you can't take no's personally. It has nothing to do with you. In fact, it's an opportunity for you to refine a few things. So I have a checklist I go through my mind. Number one, if I hear a no, is that person the ultimate decision maker? Because I can never take a no from someone who actually can't say yes. So maybe I need to requalify. Am I dealing with that right person? And sometimes there's multiple decision makers, which means I need to get them all together in the room to really have a conversation, because I'm getting a no from a guy that can't say yes on his own. So you really need to assess that situation. And sometimes there's two decision makers and one can say no, but the other one can override that person with a yes. So it's really getting the lay of the land. The way I usually do that is what I've learned in business is there's a gatekeeper everywhere. Sometimes it's a personal assistant, sometimes it's a receptionist, but I get to know that person that no one's spending time with, and I establish a rapport with them. And then they start wanting to help you, and then they give you the inside track. Oh, really, Heather? So-and-so said no to you? You don't need to deal with him anyways. You could go to his wife, or, that person will help you navigate a company and help you understand who the players are. So that's really, really important. And that's just, part and parcel to any type of business you're going to be in. So it's really important to understand you might not be dealing with that right person. Let's take another evaluation here and figure out who that right person is to go to. And sometimes someone just might not like you. You might not be their cup of tea, but their associate over here would think you're great. So it's just figuring out who are those people you click with. Then the other thing is your approach. So maybe what I did, I always try to think of what I'm doing. Maybe I didn't connect with that person and make it important to them. Maybe I didn't know enough about them when I asked, what I was asking for. So with this conference that I know you're referencing right now, I ended up speaking to one of the employees there, and I said, hey, so-and-so said no to me. I can't even imagine that. So what tips could you give me about this guy? And he said, oh, he loves the speakers he already has coming. Take a look at the list. And if you could get any of them to vouch for you, I bet he'd open his eyes to you again. Boom. So I got the inside track. That's what mattered to him. He cared about personal references and the people that he held on a high pedestal. And if I could get them to advocate for me, that's how I could really try to bridge that gap with him. So then I just asked a lot of questions about people. I ended up getting connected to that man's wife through another person. So it's about just being, you have to fill in those gaps and just keep connecting those bridges and connecting things together, because suddenly if you keep showing up in that person's life, his wife comes home that night and says, oh my God, I met the greatest girl today. Her name's Heather Monahan. She just gave me your book. Oh, we were talking about how she's doing speaking everywhere. The guy's hearing about me at work. I'm reaching out to him. Now friends of his are reaching out to him on my behalf. And now his wife is. So the more you can start showing up in someone's life, the more frequency sells, and you want your messaging to be in front of them, and you want to refine your message, and you want to bring value to them. That's critical. So how can I bring value and be different than that roster he already had? It's looking at all of these different things, and that is just sales 101. So, when do you pull back? I don't know that I ever pull back. I might not be in someone's face, but this has just happened 2 minutes before I got on with you. I got the opportunity to go out to meet with Steve Harvey's team back in October when I was in LA. And the meeting went great. And the gentleman that was the producer of the show said to me, Heather, do you want to go on the show once, or do you want to be on a panel with a reoccurring spot, like every couple of weeks be on the show? Well, hello, I'll take the every 2 weeks be on the show all the time. That's so much more reach. So I said, I'd like a shot at the panel. Now, had I said yes to the one time, I could have booked it right then. So I took a risk, right? That I'm going for the bigger play, but it's not guaranteed, versus taking the guaranteed that was right there. And everyone has to make decisions themselves, for what that looks like for you. But to me, my instinct told me, no, I want to be on the show every couple of weeks. So he said, okay, great. We'll be in touch. Holidays are coming, which is like, death once November hits. And he said, we'll be in touch. So I left. I followed up with his assistant a week later. Hey, hadn't heard back. Wanted to mail you a copy of my book. I wanted to stay top of mind with them. Yeah, nothing's going on right now. We're not making any changes to our existing panel. Just hold tight. Got it. Nothing for a couple of weeks. Now it's November and I'm hearing nothing back. So I sent a life-size cutout of myself to him and to his assistant, just to show up in their face, because I'm not going to be in LA. So I want to say, hi, here I am jumping out of a box, doing something different. I wanted to stay top of mind. Nothing. I heard nothing.
I'm going to pause you really quick because I love that story, and talk about how you called his assistant, like what you told his assistant about how you were showing up at the office. Because
So
practical nitty gritty is good for people to hear here.
Right. So it's just, I try to separate myself from everybody else that's out there. So getting his assistant to advocate for me and getting her to, want to open that box and know that there's a chance that there's going to be, that I am showing up at her office, but that it's a box. She had to be thinking about what was I up to, and she was in on the joke. And, she was helping me by setting it up in his office so that when he got back, he saw me standing in his office. So it's about, employing others to do fun things to make it different and exciting and make them part of what you're doing. So she was happy to do that. And then I heard nothing back again. But that doesn't mean I don't give up. I just always constantly, I have such a big pipeline going. I always have I have papers all over my table right now. Hundreds of different opportunities I'm always pursuing at all times. So it's a numbers game. One of them will pan out each week. I'm not sure which one, but I keep pursuing, keep all the balls in the air, stay top of mind, create opportunity, bring value, pivot, deal with someone different, all these sales tactics I've learned. So wouldn't you know, just right now, I just got an email from Steve Harvey's team. Hey, Heather, we'd love to have you start in the panel in January. Can you be here January 11th? But not, so it's about not, people say, when do you say enough's enough? I need to back off. I don't see myself as annoying someone. I see myself as doing fun things, bringing value. And no, I'm not hitting them over the head with the same message every day and shooting 85 emails a day. That's annoying. How can you be different, bring value, maybe bring a smile, maybe bring some humor, or, maybe share something interesting that you learned about that, was relevant to the first conversation you had with the person. But just be unique and be a little different, and people will think about you.
I absolutely love that. And hey, congrats.
Thanks.
Such exciting news. But that's so much like what you did there so well is so much of what this show is about, which is in those touches with people. How can you have a greater impact? You could have just sent another follow-up email. You could have just said,
right.
Hey, wondering where we stand with this. And I think here's the thing that a lot of people miss is they're too cheap with themselves, and they either don't want to spend the money or they don't want to put in the extra effort to do this one thing that would make such a greater impact. But the fact that you sent that life-size cutout, I'm sure it was a combination of different factors about you where they ended up saying yes, but that your return on investment of both time and money on that was huge. And it's worth it often to invest the extra money, to make the extra effort for that thing that you really want. It doesn't.
Yeah, I also, the other thing I would add to that is, this isn't my first rodeo, right? So this isn't the first time I've sent a life-size cutout. I know exactly what happens when it gets there. People go nuts laughing. They think it's hysterical. I've done it so many times. Even if I don't hear back from someone, I know they're dying laughing about it. Like it's definitely a conversation in the office. I've seen the movie. So once you see what success looks like, lean into that and apply that to different opportunities in your life. It doesn't have to be, well, this worked one time in one situation. Hey, if it worked over here, chances are it's going to work here, here, and here too. And they don't know about it yet, So you don't always need to reinvent the wheel. You can use what works for you and apply it to different places.
Yes, that's it. It's like find that one thing and then just do it and keep going. So that actually ties in with another question I wanted to ask you, which is, as you are networking up, for lack of a better words, like as you're networking in more exclusive social circles, and now like you're going to be on Steve Harvey, and I hope that's cool to share here. But like the fact that you're going to be in these higher social circles, for a lot of people who are listening, they do care about high level networking. They care about building deep relationships. It's not about social climbing, but it's about getting in contact with the right people who can give you access to what you want to accomplish, or who you just really want to get to know and build relationships with. I think being in those higher level spheres can sometimes bring up insecurities or bring up things that we haven't dealt with in a while, or like we can just kind of get into that head trash. So would you have any words of wisdom or advice for someone who is working on increasing their network, but they feel like, oh man, I'm not at the level of these people yet? Anything you would say to them?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I have so many experiences where I felt that same way going into something, and then you get to know someone and you're like, debunked. Are you kidding me? That person wasn't even smart. I can't believe I had them on a pedestal. Or this was a good example for me. I was going on Maria Menounos's show, and she had me come to her house because she had been sick and she was just working from home at the time. And I was so nervous to go to her house because, of course, it was like $50 million home. And, she's a supermodel, and she's, so experienced and so beautiful and so wealthy and so everything. So I come running in my little cab, from out of town, and I'm so nervous. And I had her on this pedestal. And what happened is when I got out of that cab, not feeling great about myself, feeling so scared, was I saw her and she said, Heather, I loved your book. And I just have to tell you, you helped me so much. And in that moment, I was able to take her off the pedestal and say, oh, wow, she struggled with confidence too. I couldn't believe it because I had her up here when the reality was we were always the same. She's just another girl out there in the world that struggled with confidence. And she shared when we were on air on her show about how she was bullied by producers when she was younger, and she used to laugh it off because she was so afraid to get fired. And for so long, she let people put her down that it really chipped away at how she saw herself. So that whole experience for me really taught me that, you know what, I don't need to put people up here, because the reality is there's something so similar about all of us that, and then I had an NBA player reach out to me on LinkedIn, and he wanted to meet with me to help him with his confidence. And I felt, oh my gosh, I'm a fraud. He makes 15 million a year. And who am I to tell him what to do? And I was petrified to go meet him, but I made myself do it because I knew if I feel fear, the only answer for me is to run into it and run into it faster and just see what happens. And I was able to help him. I don't know that I changed his whole life, but I gave him some good insight and some tips about, letting him know that no, the whole world isn't watching you when you're at the foul line and you're feeling like, there's millions of people watching. Everyone's on their phone on Instagram, because I've been at your games and I wasn't watching either. And he started laughing because he had never he thought every single person was so focused, laser focused on him, when the reality is everyone's just so consumed with themselves these days that they're not really paying attention to what's going on around them. But that was another example of that I had someone on this pedestal that when I met him, I really saw, a young, vulnerable guy that just wanted to find ways to get better. And that's really who we all are. We all are growing. We are all dealing with our own challenges, and, ending putting people on a pedestal, but instead putting ourselves on equal footing is the right thing to do for them and for us, for sure.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And so you spoke to the fraud mindset as well, which I think is one other thing that can tend to happen as you become more visible. And I think, again, this is something I hear, unfortunately, more from women than from men. I hear it from some men, but it's like, I'm at this new level. Maybe I got a promotion, or I'm starting my company, or I'm going to be visible. And I'm afraid people are going to think I'm a fraud. And when you really look at the meaning of the word fraud, I mean, you have to go so far to actually be a fraud where you're embezzling money, you're straight up lying to people. And so I think that word gets thrown around too much, but there is this thing that people feel, which we call a fraud mindset. And so what would you say to someone who is struggling with that right now? How could they kind of flip that on its head?
So it's really all about growth and progress. And what I would ask people to do is I always look back to 3 different times in my life. One is when I was first time a seller, when I was just a salesperson. I knew going in that first year was going to be difficult. Everyone will tell you, but now having gone through it and transcended it and moved so far beyond it, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, can I close a deal? But then it became, can I close a $10,000 deal? Then it became, can I close $100,000? Then it became a 1 million. So when I go back and look at that, I remembered each step feeling that same way, but getting myself to move forward and watching the growth. And I just went through this the other day with New Year's right behind us. I did a reflection on 2018 and I used my phone, my Instagram, and all of the images that I have to tell that story to myself of how far I had come in 1 year. And that really set me up with confidence for 19, because I said, if all this happened in 18 that I didn't know was happening, I didn't know it was coming, but I was able to take a chance on myself and make it happen, oh my gosh, what's coming in 19? So we have to really prop ourselves up with those great stories of success, of growth, of failure and bounce back. For me, looking back on being fired in 2017 is a huge empowering moment for me that really catapults me forward to make me realize I can do anything. I was feeling at the lowest of the lows. And, within months later, I had taken a turn and knew I was going in that right direction. So figure out what are those stories for you that are within your phone or on your Instagram that you can start reminding of yourself daily so that you don't have to feel like a fraud. You just have to remind yourself, I've been here before. I know what it feels like, and I know I can keep going.
So true. That's so true. And it's so powerful. And it ties back in with what you said before about baby steps of just what's one little thing. And I think it's like, if every day we can take a baby step, something that pushes us into our comfort zone and out of our comfort zone. And you said before, if something scares you, you run right into it. So I think if we can just learn to pay attention to those things that scare us every day and then just do those, we'll expand our comfort zone and we'll have those amazing years like you just had, where you have this massive quantum leap and you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, in the day to day, it didn't always feel like I was making huge progress. Right. But when I look back, look at what I've accomplished. And it's amazing to think about what can come next year and the year beyond that. But we're so quick to look at what's next that we forget to look back and look at how far we've come. And I think that is like, not just, it's timely right now because it's New Year's, but it would be a wonderful practice for somebody to adopt every week, every month, whatever that thing is, of just looking back and saying, what did I accomplish and how did I grow? And that in and of itself would be a huge confidence builder for a lot of people.
Absolutely. So, that's why journaling is so powerful and so helpful, because it gives you that opportunity to reflect at any point in time.
Well, I'm curious, what do you journal about? I didn't know if you would be a journaler or not. So I'm curious.
Oh, yeah, no, journaling it's a huge confidence building tactic. So there's 2 different things I journal. One is a gratitude journal, because that shifts you to a really positive mindset. And then once you're in a positive mindset, you're willing to try more, take on more, and put yourself out there more. So I always write 3 things a day with my son that we're grateful for that day. And then in my journal, I actually used to keep it in a paper journal. Now I do it on my computer because it was becoming too hectic to have one more thing to carry around. But now I just take notes on the day to remind myself. Like today, I'll write, so excited when I got that email about the Steve Harvey show. I've been waiting months to see this. It reminds me, never give up. Always stay focused on filling your pipeline, Heather. I'll write messages to myself about my day and what I learned in my day and the hard times in my day. And that will allow me to go back and see, oh, this hasn't all been easy. Look, I forgot about that challenge. I forgot about this, or I learned this. And it's so empowering to have that information, readily available at your fingertips.
Hey, don't forget to journal today about the massive honor of being on the Instant Impact podcast as well. Right. I expect that to be at the top of your journal entry above Steve Harvey. Forget Steve Harvey. How about Elyse Archer, right?
Done and done.
So final kind of topic here, and then we'll close out because I know I could talk to you forever. I know we're getting close on time, but I know one of the things that it sounds like what actually catapulted you out of your old career, and also that you're focused on right now, is just continuing to grow your personal brand. And so for somebody listening, whether they're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, and they want to grow their personal brand, but they're not really sure like where to start, or they feel unclear about it, or they feel like, I don't really know if I have value to add. What would you say to somebody who knows they need to be doing it, but feels uncertain as to what to do?
If you're happy with where you are today, do nothing and keep going on the same route, and you don't have to worry about it. But if you're not happy with where you are, you need to do something different. And right now is a time to do it with the start of a new year. Why not? This year, instead of doing New Year's resolutions, I put New Year's claims out there of what I'm claiming for 19. And I have a list of things I'm doing, and I announced it publicly. And I'll tell you, it just holds you more accountable to, so tell someone in your life, tell someone what you're going to do this year, that you are launching your personal brand so that you can hold yourself accountable. And if you don't think you'll do it, go to my website, heathermonahan.com. I have an accountability partner tab you can sign up for. I will email you daily to hold you accountable to these things. You need to put it out into the world what you want to create, and you need to take the steps to make it happen. No one is going to do it for you.
There's so much power in that. And that's one thing I did, maybe 2 weeks ago. I think I did a video just announcing to people that I was going to be documenting my own personal rebrand this year, because that's something that I'm going through, and just rebranding more out of sales and more into personal branding, and just putting the video out there and getting people writing back saying like, I can't wait to see what you do. Thanks in advance for sharing this. It provides this level of accountability. And I think that's great. And often we feel like, well, I need to have it more planned out, or I need to know how I'm going to get there. And what I'm hearing you say is, no, you don't. You just need to know you want to accomplish it and put it out there. And then that's going to provide the social pressure to actually do it.
And then every time you take one step, that next step becomes more clear, but it doesn't until you take that step. I never know exactly what's going to happen, but I just know I need to keep moving forward. And if I do move forward, I'll figure it out, but I don't necessarily know what it is, when I start.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And it won't be revealed until you take that next step. So this was amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, I've gotten to know you as a friend, and like I've seen you speak from afar, but we haven't been able to have like a real good interview like this yet. And so I'm just so grateful for everything that you shared and the time that you took. And you're an inspiration to me, and you're an inspiration to so many people I know. And I can't wait to share this with my network and the people I know. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Elyse. I appreciate it so much.
So if people want to find out more about you, get the book, which is like the field guide. I've got my copy right here, which I realized when I was looking back through it, you personally signed, which is so beautiful. Thank you. So if people want to get their copy of the book or find out more about you, how can they do that?
So my website's heathermonahan.com. I'm on all social media platforms at Heather Monahan, and my book Confidence Creator is on Amazon, Audible. I've got the audio version, Kindle, paperback, and hardcover, and you will love it.
Yes, you will. Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, Heather. And to everybody out there, please connect with Heather. She's got so many great free resources online, as well as her book. And I know you've got a lot of other exciting things coming out in 2019. So you want to get plugged in now so that you can be along for the journey. And I really think confidence is the key to so much of what we want in life. And thank you for championing that message.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Until next time, I will see you soon.